Let me take a review within 5 minutes. Uh, we started along with the data types, then control structures, then functions, pointers, after pointers as a general pointer. We started arrays in C. Then we had a detailed discussion about the strings, that is a character array in C. We tried to solve a few programs, user-defined functions. Then I taught you the structures in C in detail, how structure works, what is the need of the structure. My voice might be less as compared to my earlier sessions. And then I taught you last time, I think, if I'm not wrong, I conducted 3 sessions on storage classes in C. That was the last chapter before this phase. When I when I talked about the pointers in C, the first time we interact along with the dealt along with the pointers, I told you that we are going to deal along with the pointers in each chapter after that. So in arrays we use the pointer, with strings we use the pointers, structures again we use the pointer, storage classes again we use the pointer. So here one of the important topic, which is for which the base is pointer. Without pointer, dynamic memory allocation is not possible. And this is what you can say strength of a C language. And the difference is that C and C++, uh, or even Java, not Java, but C and C++, explicit dynamic memory allocation is there, right? Also in Java. As far as Python is concerned, mm, they use the dynamic memory allocation, but at the back end, not at the front end. I mean, programmer doesn't need to worry about that. Python manages on their own. So everything in Python is an object, and almost all work is done on the heap. Okay. So first time in our course, I will be talking on the heap part of data segment. If you can recall, uh, in the last chapter, storage classes, we talked about the memory map, right? If you can recall, mm, this was the memory map, right? As I told you already, when you write a C program, uh, 6 memory models are there, right? A default memory model is a small memory model. So when you write a C program under the default small memory model, one data segment and one code segment is allocated by the operating system, and that data segment is divided logically. After all, logically is divided into stack, heap, and static and global memory. In last chapter, I have told you all these things. Uh, how these variables are given memory on the basis of that modifiers, whether it is a auto or a static. Then I talked about global static as well as local static. I talked about external variable, if you can recall, register variable, variables declared inside functions, variable declared outside functions, global variables. So in detail, I talked about almost for 3 hours. I have talked about the storage classes, and if you can recall, there all variables were taking memory either in the stack part of the data segment, that is the topmost part, or the lowermost part of the data segment, that is the static or global memory area. So when you declare a variable as a static inside a function, then the variable is given memory from the static or global. Or when you declare a variable at the file scope, I think you can recall this terminology, file scope, right? Outside the function. So when you declare a variable, that memory is given from that static and global memory. All variables, all rest variables, okay, except register variable. All variables are given memory from the stack region. And basically, all this is managed by the runtime system, right? So what do you mean by runtime environment or runtime system? When when you write a program and execute, operating system uh, has got a lot of tasks to do other than your program, because at the background lot of applications are executed. Your internet connection might be open, your network might be open, local area network might be open, uh, your file copy program might be open, right? A lot of antivirus, lot of applications are executing at the backend. So operating system cannot look after your memory allocation, right? So what operating system does is it gives you runtime environment, okay, special program to look after memory allocation, right? That we call it is the uh, runtime system of memory management. Memory management is a task or a basic function. If you can recall, I talked about this in the first chapter. So memory management, process management, these are the various functions, task of operating system. So that memory management task is for all applications running on the machine. So that memory manager cannot look after your own, your small C program, right? So what does the memory management manager do? It gives that handovers that task to uh, that what I said, that runtime system environment, and that runtime system environment exclusively look after that your C program, right? This is how stepwise internally it is done. I'm talking about the internals of C compiler and operating system and your program. Now, when when we talk about the runtime system environment, then runtime system environment has to look after static memory and a dynamic memory. What we have what we have used till the last chapter, all variables inside function, variables inside if else, variable inside for loop, variable outside functions, or variable in other functions, I mean other than main function. Okay, you have declared many variables. So all these variables are given memory on the basis of that modifiers and its placement in the program by runtime system environment. And that is basically static memory allocation. So what is that static memory allocation? Memory is now in the books or in your college, they will say that static memory allocation is a memory allocated at the compile time. But this is a half truth, friends. This is a half truth. First of all, why it is a half truth? And I mean, I haven't found this written on any website or even lectures or even expert do not talk more on this static memory or even dynamic memory allocation. They tell you the definition. Memory allocated at the runtime is a dynamic memory allocation. Memory allocated at the compile time, it is a static memory allocation. But this is half definition. Why? Because question should arise in your mind if you write the program and if you compile it, right? if you write the program and compile it, but don't execute. Does it mean that memory is allocated for all variables? In a true sense, no. Right? In a true sense. Why? Because you have not at all executed the program. You have just compiled. What is the compilation process? Just conversion of your source code into machine code. Right? Machine code. So where is the question of allocation of the memory? So be it a static memory or dynamic memory, memory will be allocated at the runtime. Right? Then what is the difference? If memory is allocated at the runtime, then what is the difference between static memory and dynamic memory? Somebody may ask you, because this is a tricky question. So the basic difference lies in how much memory is to be allocated. That is decided at the compile time as far as static memory allocation is concerned. Right? So compiler is aware how much memory is going to be required. But that doesn't apply for the dynamic memory allocation, because how much memory is required, that is also decided at the runtime. Right? For example, if you declare an array, this theory is very important, because you should be able to explain, you should be able to, and to explain, you should be able to understand first. Right? Programs I will show you, exhibit through the program, but that will be a syntactical part of that. Okay? But we are not, or I don't expect my students to be very good at syntax only, because syntax are there in the books. There is a syntax. You open the any website, there is a syntax. Okay, and you use the syntax and you can go ahead. You can write the program. That is not important. What is happening at the machine level, that is important. As a programmer, as a system designer, we should know what is happening inside. Right? Like now, I told you. Okay, how we are. Okay, are we hungry? Okay. We know ourselves. If you don't feel good sometime, someday, okay, you yourself come to know something is wrong inside the body, inside the mind. So not other person can tell. You yourself are no wise enough to understand what something is wrong inside. But what that something is wrong, that is very important. Right? So as a programmer, as a C programmer, or as any programmer, we should be able to understand what is happening inside the machine at the back end, at the memory level. Right? And that's why I'm talking about the theoretical aspects of memory. So as far as whatever variables we have declared, how much memory is to be allocated, which is decided, that we call it as the static memory allocation. Right? On the contrary, dynamic memory allocation is allocation of memory is done at the runtime. There's no question about that. But how much memory is to be required, that is also decided at the runtime. For to give an example, real life example, I might have given this example in the past. I don't remember, but so I feel I have given. Suppose you are going to the market, right? And you have got 100 rupees note. Okay, your mom tells you that go to the market and get these vegetables, fruits, and whatever that. Okay, something milk like that. Now you go to the market, purchase that. It may happen. Now, first question. I'm talking about static and dynamic. See, that 100 rupees in your pocket is a compile time. So You have allocated that 100 rupees. You are carrying that. You own that money. You are not spent it yet. You're not spent it yet, right? The moment you go to the vegetable market and start purchasing, you're consuming that, right? You're consuming that. You're spending that money. That is basically a runtime, right? So money will be spent only at the runtime. No question about that, right? But when you take 100 rupees and put in your pocket or a purse, you have allocated that money for that grocery or whatever. Okay. So you won't do like no, you go outside and your that your data pack or talk time is finished. Okay, you don't worry about vegetables. You won't worry about your what your mother has told. Okay, and you spend that 100 rupees for data pack. Right? You won't do that. Why? Because your mother has insisted, keep that 100 rupees, reserve those 100 rupees, allocate those 100 rupees exclusively for purchasing the vegetables or a grocery or whatever you are going to, whatever your mother has told, right? So that is the compile time. Then what is the runtime? It may happen that you go to the market, mother has given you a list, what is to be purchased. She has given you exact money, right? And you don't have anything at all apart from that. 100 rupees, okay? 40 rupees for grocery, 40 rupees for vegetable, 20 rupees for milk. Finish. That much you are going to. But what happens? What will happen if you go to the market and mother then recalls, oh, son or daughter, okay, this much I also need. Okay, so you'll ask what I can do now because you don't have that. You don't have that. You'll have to come again back to home, right? Get that additional money and again go to the market, right? It may happen. Second thing, it may happen that mother gives you 1000 rupee note. I mean, 500 rupees note, right? But it gives you 1000 rupees. Suppose now it may happen that mother has given you this, okay, and she has not no calculated how much is to be spent. Approximately, she gave you 1000 rupees and grocery and all this thing. And suppose 150 rupees was sent. So 850 rupees unnecessarily you were carrying that. Okay. 850 rupees more you were carrying that. So what is the solution on this? Because this happens along with the array, right? When you declare an array, then it may happen that you declare an array of 10 elements and at the runtime you want to add more. So you cannot. But once you execute the program, okay, dynamically you cannot change the size of an array. Not possible because you know that when you declare an array, it is a compile time allocation. That means decision is taken at the compile time. So 10 into 4 bytes, suppose it is the integer array, 10 into 4 bytes of array, 40 bytes will be allocated. Apart from that 40 bytes, you're not going to get an additional memory at runtime to store 15 elements. Want to store suppose 5 elements extra. Not possible, right? To avoid that, it may happen that you will declare an array of suppose 100 elements. Right? You declare an array of 100 elements. And you could store only 60 elements. So 40 bytes are wasted. 40 bytes are wasted. See, as a beginner, you may find that what is harm in what if memory is wasted or no, what happens? let's always declare memory sufficient memory. Okay, more than that. But see, programming is not like that. Right? Because what we are trying to learn is basic concepts of that. But in professional world, professional life, that memory has to be allocated as per the requirements. Because memory, like money, always precious. Memory is never sufficient. Money is never sufficient. All right. Always scarcity is there. As you can see, you have got you must be having phone of 4 GB RAM. Tomorrow 6 GB RAM comes. Okay, that 4 GB RAM is also not sufficient. That happens over the time. That happens. I remember first laptop in my life. It was having two hard disks. Have you heard properly? 2 GB hard disk. Okay? My first laptop, IBM. Now your mobile has got 4 GB RAM, and it was having 2 GB hard disk, and memory I think was in KB, right? 5 512 KB was I think size of the RAM, and we used to write the C programs and all these things. But at that time also memory was not sufficient, and today also memory is not sufficient, and that is the reason we talk about the dynamic memory allocation, right? So C language Dennis Ritchie has made provision for the dynamic memory allocation of memory at the right time, right? So there are various functions in C language. Dennis Ritchie, uh, uh, after all these functions have not been written by Dennis Ritchie. As I told you in the past, Dennis Ritchie wrote the language. Dennis Ritchie told how memory can be allocated. That's it. So malloc, calloc, realloc, all these functions have been written by the library developers. Dennis Ritchie has not developed the library. He told what can be done, what how it can be done. So um, many students feel that no that printf and scanf or malloc, calloc, or many functions, okay, are part of C language. No, this is a what you can say serious serious issue. Students do not know this, friends. Printf at all is not part of C language. Scanf at all is not part of C language. I mean, all these malloc, calloc are not part of C language. C language, Dennis Ritchie designed the language. He told how it can be done, right? Or what should be done. So he designed that language. It is like Hindi or English. They have put the grammar part of that, right? Should be how should what are the tenses? How should I mean? They put that everything tenses and no articles and all these things. But that English language or whoever, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali or whatever, okay, Tamil, Telugu, they have not told you how to write the novel, which novel to write, how to write the poem. No, they have not taught this. Okay? They have not done that. Similarly, all these functions are third-party functions. What we in computer industry we call it a third party, right? So there are 3 functions: malloc, calloc. Malloc is also pronounced as malloc, right? calloc, realloc, or malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. Four functions are there. We are going to see also what is a void pointer and what is a dangling pointer here in this chapter. I think Dirtika had asked me, she wants to know about various kind of pointers, and I told at that time that at a proper time I will give. So I have talked about regular pointer, then constant pointer I have talked about, right? Um, in this chapter we will talk about the void pointer, null pointer, dangling pointer, right? So various pointers we will discuss in this chapter. Now, likewise, uh, basically this printf and scanf are part of stdout.h library, or some functions like um, get ch, get che, get can are part of stdlib.h standard library. So usually malloc calloc there is a file called alloc.h. Some will force you to include that, some may not force you. Okay, as far as C language is concerned. Sometimes some functions are there in stdlib.h as well as alloc.h or other files, and that provision is made using preprocessor directives, right? When I'm going to talk about preprocessor directives, some part of that will be discussed over there, right? So these usually there is a alloc.h header file is there. Many times students, now beginner students I have found, uh, they just file inclusion, they just do it blindly. So they look at here, in the lab is there in the college, if you can visualize writing program, and he looks here and there always. So what he has done, he has included std elabit, so he includes that file. What he has done, std conio.h, so he will include conio.h, right? So he will see here in the he has included a one more file. Okay, so I will also. So no, they include files blindly. You should not do this. At least my students should not do this. Include those files. I'm going to talk detail about about this in the preprocessor directives. What I mean, if we are not at all calling the malloc function or calloc function or the alloc function, then don't include that header file. Okay, student do not use, but they somebody has written no alloc.h, so he writes that blindly. Hash include alloc.h. One should not, because no, it doesn't make sense first of all, and it may happen that you will be trapped during the interview or your viva, or no, if you have written that in the journal and the external or internal person is, so why that file is included, so you don't have that answer. Why you have included that file? You should have answered that. Should be able to answer that, right? So do not include files blindly. That is very important. Header files. Right? I'm talking about the header, right? Fine. So I had talked about this memory block, right? Let's see. This is very important. It's very important because what you see on the left hand side, right, on your screen, mobile, or a somebody asked me about the, I think somebody asked me, I think Akifa, whether she can watch it on the mobile. This presentation video can access from the mobile. I think some app is required. Zoho Viewer app is required for that. I think to view that, if I'm not wrong, but it is visible. Now here on the left hand side, on the data segment, the topmost portion is stack, obviously. X, Y, Z are auto variables, right? Out of that, Z is a here. Uh, okay, I have not put that data type on it, but let's consider the X, Y, Z as the integer variables, right? So 4 bytes of memory is allocated. There is a pointer, okay, below that Z. This pointer variable is again on the stack. Why? Because it has been declared as an auto, right? Not necessary that auto variables has to be no um, primitive or primary data types. Not necessary, right? It can be secondary data type, like array. Array can be static array, right? If you want to initialize an array which contains all zeros, then if you declare an array as static, then all elements will be initialized to zero. Otherwise, it will be each element will contain garbage, right? I think since I have connected through the mobile, um, sometimes video is broken. Okay, but I think I hope audio is not broken. So this PTR is also a auto variable. Now the PTR contains through statement, if it is written PTR is equal to ampersand then Z. So PTR is not now pointing to Z. PTR is a pointer to Z, right? But note that all these variables, be it a pointer variable or be it a all this thing, uh, all variables, primitive variables are on the stack. Now, I told you in the last chapter storage classes, this X, Y, Z, PTR all will be stored on the stack, right? Now here, PTR is given or address of Z is stored in PTR. Now all these happen at the compile time. Okay, I mean to which variable PTR will be pointing, that is decided at the compile time, right? Static memory allocation. What about the malloc? Right? When I talk about the dynamic memory allocation, there is a function called malloc. I will go back to slide number 4 because completely I have not discussed it yet. Let me talk on this slide first, and then again I will shift to the slide number 4. Now here, what is the prototype? The prototype is that malloc is the name of the function. It takes number of bytes are to be allocated at the runtime. Number of bytes. Okay, we are talking in terms of bytes, right? So what is that? Size underscore t size. We come to that. And what is the return type of that function? Void star, void pointer, right? Malloc function returns void pointer. What is that void pointer? In a industrial terminology or a what you can say professional work, we call it as a generic pointer, right? Generic pointer and or a void pointer. I'll come to that. Why void pointer? That is the prototype. Okay. If you can recall in the function chapter, I talked in detail about the prototype, a declaration or a function signature, right? So it has got 4 parts: the name of the function, how many arguments function is going to take, what are the types of argument or data type of argument, and return type of function. Four parts are there. Right? So in that context, how we can read the prototype? Malloc is the name of the function. It takes one argument. What is the data type? Size t is the data type, and return type is word pointer. It returns word pointer. Many students do not understand this. Okay, they know the syntax, but it doesn't. So what does the malloc do? Malloc is a library function like a printf function. Just try to visualize all these things. I have told you inside main when you write the printf function, control goes from the main function to the printf function available in the library. Control is shifted from main function. It goes inside the library, and that printf function is executed, and control comes back to the main function from where it has left. Similarly, when you call the malloc function, control will leave your main function. If you have called it inside the main function, it will leave your main function. At that point, the control will jump to the body of the malloc function. Like, I think you understand what I mean by body of the malloc function, because you have written your own function, user defined function, and that user defined function has got their own body, right? Similarly, printf, scanf, getStage, whichever function you call, all these functions have got their own body inside the library. After all, these are dynamic, these are DLLs basically, right? These are DLLs, dynamic link library. These libraries are linked to your program, but I will talk about this in the this thing. Which chapter? There is one chapter, preprocessor directive. At that time, I'm going to talk on this, how these things are linked. So, what does that body of the malloc function does? Body of the malloc function sees how many bytes are to be allocated. So that's size, right? Size is there, no? I have written that argument is the size. So that many bytes are to be allocated. What is the data type of that? Size underscore t. Size underscore t is unsigned integer, right? Size underscore t is a unsigned integer. That's why in the prototype of malloc you will find that size underscore t. So it will allocate that memory. That function carries out that task of allocation of memory. But since this is a dynamic memory allocation function, during execution this memory is allocated from the heap part of the data segment, from the heap. And heap is huge, right? Heap is, I mean, you can say 90% of the memory is heap. I'm talking, this doesn't have a, what you can say, it is not documented anywhere, right? It is not documented anywhere, but 90% of the heap, or you can say even 97%, right? That is allocated from the heap. Merely negligible part is for stack and no, but that what I told you, system, this thing, that runtime environment, manages all this. If stack grows, then stack is a flexible, right? Stack is a flexible. So if you declare too many variables or heavy arrays, then that stack, since stack is flexible, stack grows, right, and shrinks as per your code, and that is managed by that runtime environment, all right? So it won't complain to you. right? Now that size underscore t is an unsigned integer because memory is number of bytes always are going to be I mean positive, right? How it can be negative? So they come up along with after C99 they came along with the size underscore t data type, and that memory is allocated from the heap. So when it allocates memory from the heap, it has to find on the heap is that much memory is available, right? First of all, whether it is available, and if it is available, allocate that. What do you mean by allocate that? What is the way to allocate memory? Because memory is getting allocated at the runtime, right? So it has got only one option to return the pointer. Function returns the pointer means what? It will allocate the memory, and whatever the address of that memory, allocated memory, address of the first byte, that is returned by the malloc function. That is returned. That address is returned. Address means pointer. So that's we call it it returns a pointer. Address is returned means pointer is returned. But that address doesn't have a data type, right? That address doesn't have a data type. Because malloc function is inside the library, and malloc function doesn't know for which purpose you are going to use this memory. Whether you are going to store integer or characters or floats or a structure or a what you are going to store, that malloc function doesn't know, right? So it returns a void pointer. For example, for example, suppose you go to the bank, right? And um, you want to withdraw, suppose 1,000 rupees, right? 1,000 rupees you want to withdraw, right? Go to the bank, fill the slip, right? Right? You go to the cashier. Cashier will actually call you. Okay? Now, when you go to the cashier at that moment, okay, in what denomination, in fact, in what denomination cashier should give you 1,000 rupees? What should be the denomination? Proper denomination. Are you getting what I mean? It should give 1,000 coins of 1 rupee each, right? That is also 1,000. Or 10 rupees bundle of 100 notes, that is also 1,000. Or 50 rupees note and number of 20 notes of 50 rupees, or 10 notes of 100 rupees. See, all these are 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees. So in a strict sense, see, the bank cashier doesn't know for which purpose you are going to use this money, right? Bank cashier may say that you are going to donate 1 rupees on the road, okay, to each person you met. Okay, why? Because you are happy today, you want to donate 1,000 rupees, 1 rupee per one person you want to donate. So, and in that case, if he gives you 1000 rupee note or a 500 rupees notes or 200 rupees 5 notes, you cannot do anything. You cannot donate that 1 rupee. Will you tear that and give it to them? No. So, at the abstract level, I'm talking about the abstraction part, which is the philosophy exploited by the object-oriented programming. What is the abstraction? The abstraction of 1000 smallest unit, that is the 1 rupee, right? So it should give actually 1 rupee note, 1000 1 rupee note, right? But that is ridiculous. How will you carry 1000? I mean, coins, 1000 coins or 1 rupee coin of 1000 notes? How will you carry that? So at that time, friends. So no, that is basic. That thought, that act of that cashier giving you that 1000 in 1 rupee coin is a void, kind of a void pointer, because he doesn't know that, right? Because if you take 1 rupee note, in fact you can use it anywhere. You can use it anywhere. Somebody wants 10 rupees, you will give. But suppose you take 5 notes of 200 rupees and somebody wants 1 rupee, you cannot do anything. You cannot do anything. And that's what actually I'm talking about, the abstraction. So cashier doesn't know. So similarly, malloc function doesn't know. That's why malloc function returns a void pointer or a generic pointer, right? Size underscore is a returns void pointer, and size underscore is a data type. Allocated from the stack means allocated memory from the stack. Now, ptr underscore x. Is it is a pointer? You have to store address, file store address, right? Here ptr underscore x is on the stack, x is also on the stack. An address of x has been stored in the ptr underscore x. Now, next pointer, ptr, this pointer. I am going to take memory dynamically. So I will write ptr is equal to malloc, right? What I can write? Size of int. I'll write size of int. Okay. Initially, since you are a beginner, this code you will find bit weird, but don't worry. Okay. By the end of this chapter, you will understand everything about the dynamic memory allocation. Everything about dynamic memory. I mean, you don't need to study again dynamic memory allocation in your lifetime, right? Everything will be fitted in mind perfectly. Now, this malloc function, this is the name of the function, number of bytes. I can write number of bytes anything, right? But I'm writing, I'm taking memory for single integer. That's it. That's why I written size of int. Because size of int actually returns size number of bytes reserved for that whatever argument you have sent to the size of. So when you write size of int, size of will return 4. So inside this function, this will be executed first and it will return 4. So it is as good as malloc 4. So what does it mean? We are requesting malloc function to allocate 4 bytes from the heap. That's it. It will return a void pointer, right? Now, coming back to our bank program, a bank problem, okay, or bank example rather. When you go to the cashier, you tell him, okay, sir, please give me 10 notes of 100 rupees. What is that? You are telling the cashier the type of the denomination, right? In programming uh, jargon, we can say you are typecasting that, right? You're typecasting, you're telling, you're requesting. Okay. It so here you can typecast that int star. That is typecasting, right? So malloc will return a void pointer, and this void pointer will be typecasted into integer pointer. Why? Because on the left hand side, PTR is integer pointer. As simple as it is, right? So it's a wonderful mechanism of typecasting. Now, since we have got bytes of memory on the heap, which is going to be allocated at the runtime, I can write PTR is equal to 5, right? Now this 10 will be stored, I mean, this X, this static memory allocation. X is going to be variable, it is going to be integer, 2 bytes of memory is going to be taken, 100%, no change in the program, no change in the mechanism, no change in the thought process, 10 is going to be stored. That's it, right? This is not like that, right? Memory is going to be allocated at the runtime, right? And 5 will be stored in that location. So 5 will be stored, let's go here, right? On the right hand side. Now this PTR is pointing to 4 bytes of memory on the heap, right? So that 5 will be stored in that 4 bytes on the heap, and PTR will point to that. Before I conclude today's session, what I want to tell, and remember this, try to understand this. Memory allocated from the heap is unnamed memory. It doesn't have name. And since it doesn't have name, you have to use the pointer to access and allocate. Rather access, not allocation. Allocation is done by the malloc or calloc. But you can access that memory using only and only pointer. Got that? So memory allocated from the heap is unnamed memory. See, this is the only memory on the data segment which doesn't have its name, which has to be accessed using the address only. All other memory on the stack, on the global and static, all these are named memory locations. This is a huge difference. Doesn't have a name. And though it doesn't have a name, because of address and because of pointer, you can manipulate, you can do everything. See, this is the feature used by Python language, and they have played inside the machine. This is the feature, right? This is the feature. If you want to understand Python from inside out in your life, in your future life, or some of the students are still learning. I don't know what actually your teachers teach you, because they might be teaching you syntax and all these things, for loop, while loop, and all these things. Okay, or if else, elif, a lot of things are there. But that is not to be taught. These are part of C language, C++. Everywhere it is same. Little bit of difference is there. But this is the feature which is used by the Python language. Okay, they have rather exploited that. So in Python, you won't find anything on the stack. You won't find anything on the global and static. You will find everything on the heap. right? And they manage it using the pointer, but pointer is hidden inside the machine. You don't use the pointer, right? Day after tomorrow, okay? Wednesday I will continue.